So today we'll be continuing our discussion from last time. We will look at the collisions in more than one dimensions, in two dimensions to be exact. And we'll also talk about a specific topic, which is transforming your problems into the center of mass frame of reference. Okay. So this is your problem number 4, which is given in your tutorial number 2, and it says that you have three masses m, 2m and 3m. These are the mass of all these three particles, and they are moving in a xy plane, and they are all moving with different velocities. Okay, so mass m is moving with velocity 3 times v, and mass 2m is moving with velocity 2v, and the mass 3m, that is the heavier mass, is moving with less velocity. So all of them, they are moving in this xy plane, and they move towards this point. Okay, and at this point, which is defined as point P, they will undergo a collision. Okay, and right here, and after they collide, all these three masses are going to stick to each other. Okay, so in the problem, it is asking you to find the velocity of the resulting mass. Okay, starting point that you have to do in this problem is you have to decompose the momentum in the x and y directions. Okay, so we have our equation of uh, conservation of momentum, that is simply stating that momentum before collision is going to be the same as momentum after collision. Okay, and this is what we have to use. Okay, even though the masses are sticking to each other, which is the case of an inelastic collision, this law is valid, right? So what we have to do is we have to decompose the momentum in the x direction and decompose the momentum in the y direction. All right, so what will be helpful, if you can draw a table and you can note the masses, right? And I'm going to label this mass with the color so that it's easier for us to see. So I'm going to have mass m in red, and I have this mass 2m in blue. Okay, so that will be a second mass, and I'll have this in green, so that is your mass 3m. Okay, and now what we will do is we will find the velocity in x, and we'll find the velocity in y. So once you have the velocity in x, you just have to multiply with m, and you will get the momentum of each of these particles in the x and in the y direction. So just, all right, so I'll give you a couple of minutes to come up with the values. All right, so let's consider the first mass, okay, which is mass m. So it is clearly in this xy plane, it is moving only in the x direction. Okay, and so the velocity in the x direction will be 3 times v. Okay, and the velocity for it in the y direction will be 0, because it is not moving in the y plane at all. Okay, and let's look at the second mass, which is this heavier mass with blue one, which is moving with velocity 2v. So now we will decompose this into the x and y direction. Okay, so you have this is your component in the x direction, and this is your component in the y direction. All right, so we can use trigonometry and say that, you know, this angle which is given as 60 degree, sine of this angle will be opposite side by hypotenuse, right? So for this component of the vector in this y direction, okay, so we will get as the value of, in terms of sine of 60, right? So this will be minus 2v sine 60, right? So we have 2v, it is pointing in the opposite direction to the positive y direction. Okay, so here you will get minus 2v and sine of 60 degrees. Okay, similarly this side, which is corresponding to this side right here, you will get 2v times your cosine of 60, and it is moving in the opposite sign to plus x, so you will get minus 2v cosine of 60 degrees as the value for your component, which is right here. Okay, so that is this component. right here. Okay, so let me label this somehow. Let me label this as uh, your velocity of 2m in the x direction, v2mx. Okay, so this value here is your v of 2mx. Okay, so moving on, let's look at the mass with 3m. So for this mass, again, you have your component in the x, which is here, and you have component in the y, which is in this direction. Now this will be positive. Okay, so you have, this is opposite to this angle, so this will be again sine value. So you get plus v sine 60 as your value in the y direction. Okay, so you get v sine 60 right here. Okay, and in the x, it's moving in the opposite one to the positive x direction. So this will be minus v, and this will be cosine of angle. It is adjacent angle. So you get cosine of 60 degrees. Okay, so these are your velocity components in the x and y direction. First equation from here, that will tell you the momentum before collision in the x direction. So let's say for x direction, momentum before collision will be what? M times your, see, these are all initial velocities. Okay, v, 3v, 2v, these are all initial velocities. When the masses, they come and hit and stick to each other, they will all have a final velocity. And since they are sticking together, all will have the same final velocity. So let's say the velocity final is v of f. Okay, so that is a common velocity for all the three masses. So the momentum after collision is simply the sum of the all the masses, which will be m plus 2m plus 3m, that is the total mass 6m, times the final velocity, which is v final. Okay, so that is the momentum after collision in the x direction. So we can say velocity of the final vfx, and we will have some velocity in the final vfy. Okay, we don't know where the thing will go. Either we will get a value or it might be zero. We don't know yet. Okay, so that is v of x for x direction. So now the momentum before collision will be m times your first velocity, which is 3v. Okay, and you have to add the second one, which is plus 2m, and the value is minus 2v. Cosine of this angle 60 is just 1/2, right? Sine 30 is 1/2, which is the same as cosine 60. So this value is 1/2. Okay, there you go. And the last term is 3m times the velocity in the x direction, which is minus v. Again, cosine is 1/2. Okay, and that is your term for the third mass. Okay, so that is your total velocity before collision in the x directions. Okay, so from here you are getting one equation. Okay, you are getting the value for v of x, the final velocity of the all the masses in the x direction. Similarly, you will get an equation for y, which will be some 6m v of fy. Okay, so for y, again you will get m times 0, then you will get 2m times this term minus 2v, sine of 60. Sine of 60 is root 3/2, and you will get the last term, which will be 3m times v, again sine 60, which will be root 3/2. Okay, and of course these, all of these values are in the I direction. This is our I direction, and this is our j direction, so that we are defining the eventual direction of where the velocities are headed. Okay, we get m is common, so eventually this m will get cancelled with the m on the right hand side, and you have 3v minus 2v minus 3v/2 for the first three terms in the x1, and if you simplify it, you get v of x is minus v/12i, right? Similarly, you can solve the one for the second one. So here you will get your u of y, sorry, your v f y right, will be minus root 3 by 12 and times the velocity, initial velocity in the, and it's in the j direction. Okay, so if I'm writing your value for v of f, which is the final velocity, okay, it's a vector one, so I will get it as minus v by 12, and that's in the I direction, and you get minus root 3 by 12 in the j direction. Okay, so that is how you represent the final velocity of the three masses that are getting stuck to each other. Okay, so this is a typical example of where you have uh, two-dimensional case and you have to just decompose the components. Okay, so until now what we have done is we have looked at the linear momentum of how objects are moving, its relationship to force, and we are also looked at different ways they are colliding. Okay, however, whenever we have looked at these collisions, we have been using our lab frame of reference. Okay, so we have been choosing a frame of reference and then looking at how these collisions are actually happening. Okay, now what we are familiar with is this idea of the position of center of mass. Okay, and like we had discussed before, it is a very special position of two objects, right? So we know that when there is no external force acting on the system, then the acceleration of the center of mass is zero. Okay, that means the velocity of the center of mass has to be a constant value. Okay, so imagine that you are now sitting at the position of center of mass, right? And if the center of mass is moving with a constant velocity and there is no acceleration, so it is very hard for one to know what kind of motion they are doing, right? So you will not be able to differentiate whether you are in a stationary situation or whether you are moving with a constant velocity. Okay, because until and unless there is some force or some acceleration, your body won't feel it, right? So this motion of the center of mass is a very, very predictable one, right? And it's much simplified than looking at a picture from outside lab frame of reference. All right, so what we would like to do is we would like to transform ourselves from the lab frame of reference to this position of the center of mass frame of reference. And the reason why we are doing it is because it will help us solve the problems much faster, and we can deal with complicated problems in a much easier manner. Okay, and what you will realize is that at this position of the center of mass, because it doesn't have any acceleration, the momentum of the system before collision and the momentum of the system after collision is actually zero. Okay, and that is the simplified picture that will be presented to us. Okay, so look at it this way. Suppose you have two masses, m1 and m2. Okay, and they are approaching each other. Okay, and we have already calculated for the individual system of these particles, the center of mass will probably be at the center if both the mass have the same value of m1 and m2. Okay, now as these masses are approaching each other, okay, and they get closer and closer, okay, this position of center of mass doesn't change. Okay, so if this mass moves to this position here and this mass moves to this position here, the center of mass doesn't change, right? It is stationary there. Okay, so that's the simplified picture that you have. So now we want to transform into the center of mass. Okay, so we are going from one frame of reference into this frame of reference. Okay, so when they collide and after collision, let's say the masses are now traveling in the opposite direction. Okay, so again the center of mass remains at the same location, it doesn't change. Okay, and so what we can do is now we can define your velocities of your particles that are traveling from the perspective of the center of mass. Okay, so now you are here in the center of mass and you're looking at two objects, they are approaching you, they come and they hit you at the center of mass and then they go in the opposite direction. Okay, so we can define u1 and u2 as the initial velocities of these masses before collision, and you can define u1 prime and u2 prime as the velocities after collision. Okay, and again we can use the same idea of conservation of momentum, and you can consider this as to be an elastic collision. So you will have conservation of kinetic energy. And if you solve these two equations, we simply get that the velocity after collision is exactly the same as the velocity before collision, except that it is in the opposite direction. Okay, so whatever velocity was approaching, let's say it was 5 meters per second going from left to right for this mass m1, now it is 5 meters per second going from right to left in the opposite direction. Okay, so you get the final velocities just by knowing the initial velocities if you go and transform yourself into the center of mass frame of reference. Okay, now the question arises, how do we transform ourselves into this frame of reference? Okay, and to do transformation you need to know the Galilean transformations equation. Okay, so this is a very common way of transforming from one reference to the other. Okay, you might have done a lot of problems like these without talking about Galilean transformation in your school level, where questions are asked like if a person is traveling in a train with 100 kilometers per hour and he is approaching a station, and then the person in the station is seeing an opposite train going 20 kilometers per hour, when the two trains will meet. So such kind of questions, they are all done using Galilean transformations actually. Okay, so if you look at your equation for your Galilean transformation, what is happening is, suppose you are in frame of reference O, okay, and you want to go to the frame of reference O prime. Okay, what are you doing? You're trying to look at a particle that is moving. Okay, so you're seeing the particle or seeing object that is moving when you're at O and when you're at O prime. Okay, and what you're trying to consolidate is that the person who is sitting as this frame of reference, right, he should be able to locate the particle exactly the same place where this person is standing at the new frame of reference. Okay, because if both of you don't agree to it, then basically that situation doesn't hold, right? So the way it works is, suppose this O prime frame of reference is moving with some velocity v. Okay, now after certain time t, the distance that this frame of reference has moved is v times t. Okay, that is just simply speed equals to distance over time. Okay, now if I am trying to locate an object, okay, and the object is at this position, okay, and so if I measure it from this frame of reference, I get a value of r, that is my position vector. Okay, when a second person measures from O prime, he will measure a different value, and that value will be r prime. Okay, now how is the measurement from one frame of reference related to the other? Okay, so you can just use vector mathematics. R will be vt plus r prime. Okay, and that is your equation that relates one frame of reference to the other. Okay, and to get the velocities of the object, all you have to do is you have to take the derivative. So if you take the derivative, you get dr by dt on one side. Second term will become dr prime by dt. Okay, and this v is what is left, which is the velocity with which one frame of reference is moving from the other. Okay, so this is a tricky thing to digest in the beginning. Okay, so let me redo this a little bit. Okay, so that we don't have much confusion. Okay, so again, what I'm trying to say is, this is a very simple problem that you might have dealt before, is saying that one person is sitting in a railway station and the other person is in traveling in a train, and the train is moving 100 kilometers per hour. Okay, so those are the two frame of references: a person standing at the train station and a person sitting inside a train that is moving. Okay? And now both of them are trying to find the location of a building, for example, somewhere, from their own frame of references. Okay, so each of them will give their own measurement of where this building is located. Okay, so it's the same kind of idea that is happening here. Okay, so the point O is one frame of reference. This point O prime is one frame of reference. Both are measuring the position of an object here. Okay, O is measuring the value r, and O prime, the new frame of reference, is measuring r prime. Okay, and the way these two frame of references are related is by this simple value of v times t. Okay, that speed is equal to distance divided by time. Okay, so instead of speed we have velocity. Okay, and after certain time t, the distance mode will be v times t. Okay, and just by using the vector notation, you can see that r prime is r minus vt. Okay, and again this is the measurement of position. Now if this object is moving, then from these two frame of references you will be measuring velocities, which is just dr by dt for this frame of reference, and dr prime by dt is for this frame of reference. Okay, so you can just consider two people standing here, one is standing here and one is standing here. Okay, so the velocity for our lab frame of reference is given by v. Okay, and the velocity for the new frame of reference, which we'll call is the center of mass frame of reference, is given by u. Okay, so just by Galilean transformation you can see that v, which is this term, will be equal to u plus this v, which is the velocity of the center of mass. Remember, the center of mass is the position, and it might be moving with some velocity, right? So this o prime, which is our center of mass now, can be moving with some velocity. We know that velocity is v of center of mass. It can be zero, or it has to be a constant value. Okay, so that's how you relate one frame of reference to the other. Okay, and of course, if you are considering now collisions, then you have the velocities for two objects. So you have your center of mass velocity u1 for the first object relation to the velocity of that object in the lab frame of reference minus v of center of mass, and the second object u2, this again, these two velocities are in your center of mass frame of reference, right? v1 and v2, these are in your lab frame of reference. Okay, so the methodology here is quite simple. I have listed down the 4 steps. When you're solving a problem, first thing you have to do is you have to find the v of center of mass, okay, for the objects that are colliding. Once you have the v of center of mass, then you can transform your values to your center of mass frame of reference. How? You need to get u1 and u2. Okay, so you will have to have the values of v1 and v2, and if you have v of center of mass, you can go and find u1 and u2. Okay, okay, once you have u1 and u2, you simply know that the final velocities of these objects will be negative and the same value. Okay, and there you go. Now you have the final velocities in your center of mass frame of reference. Okay, now once you have the center of mass frame of reference final velocities, you can transform back to your lab frame of reference, okay, by using the same equation. The question, it says find the final velocities of an elastic collision, okay, and the things that are colliding are a 4 kg block that is moving with a velocity of 6 meters per second. It's moving this way, and then there is another block which is 2 kg. So this is 4 kg, this is a 2 kg block, and it is moving at 3 meters per second. Okay, so this heavier one will eventually catch up to this, and they will do a collision, and we have to find the final velocities after the collision. Okay, and the way you have to do is you have to transform from your lab frame of reference to your center of mass frame of reference. Okay, I have given the equation to calculate the velocity of the center of mass. Remember, it is the sum of the total momentum divided by the total mass. Okay, so that should be 6 times 4 mass times velocity plus 3 times 2 divided by the total mass, which is 4 plus 2, which is 6 kgs. Okay, and 6 4s are 24 plus 6 divided by 6, 30 by 6 is 5 meters per second. So you already know what v of center of mass is. Okay, now in the next step, what we need to do is we need to transform from your lab frame of reference to your center of mass frame of reference. Okay, and the formula to do that is given here, right? The u, which is the center of mass frame of reference, is equal to v, which is the velocity in the lab frame of reference, minus v of center of mass. Okay, so let's see how that plays out. So you have u1 equal to v1 minus v of center of mass, and similarly the velocity of the second object in the center of mass frame of reference will be v2 minus v of center of mass. Okay, and v of center of mass we just calculated is 5 meters per second. Okay, so u1 initial velocity of the first one is what? It's 6 meters per second. Okay, so 6 minus 5, that gives us 1 meters per second as the velocity of the first object. Okay, that has mass 4 kg. Okay, now the second one, it has mass 2 kg. Okay, so for this u2 will be v2, which is 3 meters per second, minus 5 meters per second, which is minus 2 meters per second. Okay, so now you have u1 and u2, which are velocities in center of mass frame of reference. Okay, so now from here what you need to do is you need to calculate the final velocities. We know that the final velocities are simply minus of the initial velocities in the center of mass frame of reference. So the object will have the velocity after collision as minus 1 meters per second, and the second object will have the velocity as 2 meters per second. Okay, which is just the negative of these values. Now we have to go back to lab frame of reference. Okay, now how do we go back to the lab frame of reference? Again, use the same formula. We have v1. Okay, now we want to find the final velocities v1 prime, which will be equal to u1 prime, right, plus v of center of mass, right? So v of center of mass is going on the other side. Okay, so v1 prime, the final one, will be u1 prime plus v of center of mass. So u1 prime is what? Minus 1. V of center of mass is what? 5. So we get v1 prime is 4 meters per second. Okay, similarly v2 prime is 2 u2 prime, right? Let's write this down. v2 prime is u2 prime plus v of center of mass, so that is plus 5, so you get 7 meters per second. So now you have the final velocities. v1 prime and v2 prime are the final velocities after collision. Okay, so you see we have found the final velocities in the lab frame of reference, in the normal frame of reference that we have been doing, without using any equation of conservation of momentum or conservation of kinetic energy. We have not used the equations at all. All we have to done is we have transformed the frame of references and we have found the final velocities after collision. If you guys didn't know about the center of mass frame of reference, what would have been, what will we be doing? We will be using the equations that we were doing before. Remember, we would have said, okay, this is the situation. We don't know about center of mass frame of reference. So we will use conservation of momentum, which is m1 v1 plus m2 v2. These are the initial velocities. Now we will have v1 prime plus v2 prime. You see, so you get one equation from here. All I can do. So that will be my equation 1. And the second equation would have been 1/2 m1 v1 square plus 1/2 m2 v2 square is equal to 1/2 m1 v1 prime square plus 1/2 m2 v2 prime square. And this is the conservation of kinetic energy, right? And we could have used this, and again we could have gotten the second equation. Okay, and then you have to solve the equations, and only after solving equation you can find v1 prime and v2 prime. So that is the typical strategy one would do. However, when you're using the center of mass frame of reference, you don't have to use the equations at all. All you have to do is transform your coordinates and you get the answer.